Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And before we get into the episode, we have been doing these tip of the day, top tips, and we're still waiting for a jingle. No one has sent us one yet. However, I believe Joy has got a tip of the day, and it's, tip of the day. Go on, Joy.
I do. So if you have a dying plant or you're like me and you are terrible with plants, you don't want me with a garden. It's a bad plant. One tip I did learn when I was a kid is like Flintstone vitamins specifically, put them in the water base of any flower, plant, whatever, and the nutrients will help it grow because it's got the potassium and all the things that plants crave. And it can actually help revitalize a plant that's in a very rough spot. So there's my tip. Flintstone vitamins. They're not just for humans.
There you go. And I know this from experience, if you have a real Christmas tree, and we're now heading into the Christmas season, make sure you put the bottom of your Christmas tree in like a little pot of water and put some little aspirins in there. And similarly, there's some chemicals in the aspirins that makes the tree flourish and all the little pine things not fall off.
Good to know.
But
there's our tips.
there we are. I actually have another tip. My tips so far have been very specific, and this is another specific tip. So for all the people out there, and I'm sure there's many, who are watching Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, which is the 1970s, 1980s TV show, and enjoyed the first season and thought, this is great, absolutely fantastic. Yes, it was leftover Battlestar Galactica sets, but that's beside the point. But it was a great TV show. My tip for you, don't bother with the second season. It is terrible.
Did it jump the shark?
And it jumped it using a spaceship is what it did. It jumped it so much. See, like in the original Buck Rogers, they were on Earth, on New Chicago, and, hilarity ensues, and Buck Rogers got frozen in space, and he's now a 70s man living in the 25th century and all that kind of stuff. And now they're on this spaceship trying to find a new colony, and they had a new producer, and the writing is terrible, and the episodes are terrible, and the premises are terrible, and I will stick with it to the bitter end. However, it is not good.
It's very bitter is what you're saying.
Exactly.
The end is very bitter. Okay, got it. Noted.
But there we go. Another very specific tip for you.
I feel like you could figure out what Tim has spent his day doing based off of whatever tip he gives you on the podcast.
I also today, this is not a tip, but I did listen to Jeff Wayne's musical version of War of the Worlds. Are you familiar with that?
No, I didn't even know there was a musical version.
Oh, joy.
News to me.
It is fantastic. I can't believe someone with the breadth of music knowledge you have, you've never come across that.
It's not something that rings a bell. I mean, I may have seen it somewhere, but I mean, I know what world. God, now I can't say it. War of the World is, but I don't know there was a musical. Didn't know.
Yeah, it was a musical version originally. And then I think it, very much later after the fact, it turned into a stage production. And in fact, I saw the stage production in Cardiff. I believe it is in 2010. And I saw it with my friend Paul Hogg Somerton, who very kindly got me a ticket to that. And we drove to Cardiff from Wales and watched it. And it was amazing, absolutely amazing. But the soundtrack, I believe, is from the musical album, I believe, is from the 70s. But it is so good. It's like I want to go on Amazon right now and buy you a copy on a format and send it to you because it is that good.
Tim. There's your Christmas. There's my Christmas present. How about it?
There we go. Well, fantastic. Well, so it's my turn to pick the topic this week. And we've sort of maybe spoken about this a little bit in the past, but I decided to do an entire episode on it. So this week
seems to be a popular thing here recently.
yeah, we talk about it a bit, and then I put it in my my list of things I think is going to be interesting, and there we go. And then you develop it into an episode.
Fair.
That's another top tip for everybody. That's if you want to do a podcast, that's a good way to do it.
Especially if you're doing 2 a week, said you because of the holiday season coming up.
Yeah, maybe you'll be getting this in December, but maybe we recorded it just a little while ago.
Yep. All right, Tim, what's the topic?
Okay, so this week's topic is songs that were banned in the UK.
Oh, okay. So this should be interesting because we have hinted on it before.
Yeah, so the UK broadcasters, the BBC in particular, have a rich tradition of banning songs. And I remember when I was a kid, it was funny because you had BBC radio, which had the top 10 on it, and then you had independent radio, which had the top 10 on it. And then you would get like the BBC radio and something would be number one. And they said, and number one is blah, 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 blah. And unfortunately, we can't play it. But if you tuned over to Capital Radio, they didn't care. They'd play it anyway. So it wasn't always, all the broadcasters wouldn't always ban the same things.
Well, Utah is notorious. I've told you that, like, I still don't think Ozzy Osbourne can go back. And at one point, I think Elvis was banned from Utah. Utah's notorious for that kind of thing.
Ozzy didn't relieve himself up against a monument like he did in Texas, did he?
I think he bit the head off a bat.
Oh, is that where that happened?
Mm-hmm. And then they banned him, so he couldn't go back.
I wonder if he's still banned in Utah.
I think so. I mean, I don't know. It's like an official law. What does being banned actually mean? Does it just mean there's a memo that goes out to all concert venues saying, don't come here? Charlie also talks about when Evanescence, that Bring Me to Life CD came out. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but sure. That was banned off their shelves too. You couldn't buy it anywhere. There's some topics in it that are not PG, so they banned it. The weird thing about Utah, though, the weirdest thing and if you're in Utah, there's nothing wrong with it. It just, from an outsider's perspective, it kind of like threw me. When you go into like a grocery store or anything, Tim, you know, when you go to check out the magazines, usually like In Shape has some girl like, you know, that's supposed to be fit, or some guy or whatever. Yeah. They put covers over those. All magazines have covers over them so you can't see the person on them. And they did the same thing with CDs. Like if the CD cover was kind of controversial, they'll have an additional like black over it.
That's so weird.
You just read the top. Yeah.
I mean, I've noticed, I didn't know this was a thing until I had a Kid Rock live album. This was years ago. I didn't realize that they make versions of albums specially for Walmart that may have bad language in them. They make a bleeped version that's sold in Walmart. I didn't even know that was a thing. I
mean, I knew there was radio edits, but I didn't think it was for Walmart. That's weird.
Yeah, because I had it was Kid Rock and Twisted Brown Trucker Live. Now, I mean, you know, we all have our opinions on Mr. Rock. Bob, whatever his name is, I can't remember his last name. But anyway, Kid Rock.
Whatever.
Yeah. But I remember it was when I was in Rough Justice. And, you know, he was, I don't say new at the time, but he was popular at the time. And the other guitarist, Mike Stone, he said, I've got a live album, Kid Rock. You should hear it. It's really cool. So he gave it to me. And it's like, of course, he's very free with his language. And it's not so much bleeps, it's got like weird sound effects all the way through it. And when I looked into
I love when they do that. It's just like some weird noise or something. Yeah, like
a scratching sound or like a horn. It's weird. And then when I looked into it, it was a version that was sold in Walmart.
Weird. So, I mean, we were flipping through satellite radio today in Charlie's car, and we came across the Kids Pop station, and I was this tempted to leave it on just to hear what it was going to do. All right. What is your first thing that's banned in, I guess, England?
Yeah, I mean, some of this stuff is not like currently banned, because I think they're a little more loose and free these days. But
at one point it was.
At one point it was. So the very first one that I've got here is the Kinks and Lola.
Well, you know what they say about Lola, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a song about a relationship between a man and as it was described at the time, a transvestite. Okay. Yeah. But that wasn't the reason that it was banned. The reason that it was banned is because the BBC had a policy of not promoting products. And there's a line in it that says Coca-Cola.
Yep.
And they didn't want the word Coca-Cola in it. So they had to go, Ray Davies had to re-record the line to say Cherry Cola.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And even now, if like I've got versions of Kinks albums and Kinks songs on compilations, if they've originated from the UK, they say Cherry Cola. And if they originate from the US, they say Coca-Cola.
Well, to be fair, I see how you could easily put Cherry Cola in the where he says Coca-Cola. Mm-hmm. Lola, the Kinks is one of my all-time favorite songs. FYI, if anybody didn't know that, I absolutely adore that song. One of the like first songs that I really got into as a kid. But I mean, I that's just weird. So like they're just so anti-product placement. So like the music videos we've talked about in modern day music videos have all kinds of product placement in them. Was that acceptable in the UK?
Well, they didn't really certainly going back years ago, they didn't really play music videos. There was no outlet for playing music videos.
That's true.
You had Top of the Pops, where you either went into the studio and mimed to the backing track, or like you said, we had Pan's People or Legs and Co. dancing to the songs. Music videos was a thing that came on later, and I'd imagine now it's not so much of a thing.
And I mean that's fair because like in America, it's the same. Like you had your American Bandstand and that kind of thing back in the day, and like those those type of shows people went on. And I mean, I guess I never really gave it any thought, but music videos probably weren't a big thing till MTV. Truly.
Exactly. I mean, MTV honed the need for music videos. And in fact, when MTV launched, they didn't have so many music videos, so they tend to play them all the same ones on, as they called it, heavy rotation.
Yeah, which is how we all got sick of the same songs.
Exactly.
All right, what's the next song?
Okay, so the next one is the Sex Pistols, Anarchy in the UK.
Well, please tell me that there's not product placement in that one, and the reason it's banned is obvious.
Well, it wasn't so much the content of the song, it was an appearance they made. So there was a TV show called Today, and I think this took place in the late 70s, and they appeared on this TV show called Today. And you can look up the clip on YouTube. And I think if you watch it now, I don't really think the Sex Pistols were at full. They were booked. They were big at the time. They were the thing, the Sex Pistols. And they were booked on this very stuffy chat show. Like David Letterman sometimes had people who were very out there.
Yeah.
But Today it was a very stuffy kind of TV show. So they put the Sex Pistols on it. So already you're creating a situation. And then the host was like egging them on to say something controversial. So one of them one of them swears, and it's like, oh no, Sex Pistols, what have you done?
Their name is called the Sex Pistols.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know what you're expecting.
Exactly.
I just think it's funny that it's not because of the whole promoting anarchy in the UK, really.
No, it was because it was on this TV program, and there was an amazing outrage. And there was this lady called Mary Whitehouse, and she was from the Clean Up campaign. And it was I suppose it was like the equivalent of, there's like groups of conservative housewives who are like outraged at stuff. She was probably proto that, like in the 60s and 70s. So the Mary Whitehouse cleanup campaign people were campaigning because the Sex Pistols were not suitable for television. And of course, then the song had to be banned because you couldn't promote them and play it and all that kind of stuff.
You know what I always think of when I think of that I don't know how much you've listened to Eminem, but there's like the FCC won't let me be. For some reason, that line is what I think of when I think of that. Like the FCC won't let me be. And for those who aren't in America, the FCC is the Federal Communication. What is the
Commission?
Commission. That's the other C, and they basically monitor all of our stuff like this.
Exactly, but some stuff falls out of FCC regulations. I think cable TV and satellite radio, I think, are self-regulated. I don't think they.
Probably.
I think they're licensed by the FCC, but the content is not monitored. Because, like in the UK now, regular broadcast TV, BBC, ITV, etc. After 9 p.m., it's what they call the watershed. And it's like HBO, like as far as like language, sex, nudity, whatever, it's a complete free for all after 9 p.m.
We have that in America after 9 p.m. It's called prime time, but it's not that extreme. It's just like they can start cussing now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but UK broadcast TV is a lot more extreme than US broadcast TV. US broadcast TV tends to be a lot more PG rated. Somebody might say crap or something on.
Unless you're specifically searching out a show, but it's not usually on TV. It's like something you're looking on Hulu or something. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like if you put NBC on at 10 p.m., you're not going to see anything that's particularly out there.
No, I mean, there's Adult Swim at midnight on Cartoon Network, but that's the extent of it.
Yeah, but again, that's cable. So to some extent, anything goes on cable because it's a cable channel.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm learning all about the European TV scene.
There you go. Okay, so the next song, unsurprisingly, this was banned. George Michael's "I Want Your Sex."
If you say that it's because something not related to what the song's about, I would be like, I quit. None of this makes any sense.
It says that the BBC restricted play of the song and the video for being overtly sexually suggestive. Really? I would have never thought that.
Not even a little bit. Not with a title like that. But to be fair, was that the only George Michael song that got banned? Because, I mean, even in the Freedom video, like Freedom 90, you've got all the supermodels and stuff.
No, that's too funky.
Good to know.
I think Freedom is the one with the jukebox exploding. I think Too Funky is the one with catwalk models.
I thought that Naomi Campbell was in Freedom. We're going to have to Google it, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while. You're probably right. It's been a while.
George Michael. Hold on. We've got this thing. We're going to give it a Goog. Freedom.
Goog. Is that a term?
It's a podcast I listen to. It's called TCO, and they're going to give it a Goog, and now it's stuck in my brain. Music video.
I've never heard that expression before.
I'm going to give it a Goog. I don't know where it came from. Who were the models? Ha! Naomi Campbell. I was right. Cindy Crawford. Yep, it's Freedom 90 with the little thing on the end or whatever.
There you go.
I don't know if it actually says 90, but yeah.
There you go. Well, your George Michael video knowledge exceeds my George Michael video knowledge.
I was big on the George Michael trend. I even dressed up as him for Halloween 3 or 4 years back. Jacket, guitar, jeans, and all.
The only moderate claim to fame I have about George Michael is that the song "Faith," that rhythm guitar, chank, 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 that's played by a guitarist called Hugh Burn. And Hugh Burn is a very famous session guitar player. And he also played the guitar solo on Jerry Rafferty's Baker Street.
I think you've told me that once before.
Yeah, and my claim to fame is that I was in Chandler Guitars in Kew, which was a very famous guitar shop, which sadly closed down because they just couldn't compete with internet and stuff. But their workshop was superb. And in fact, the guy who was their lead workshop guy, Charlie Chandler, now runs a shop in just outside Kingston, Hampton Wick. But anyway, that's beside the point. But I was in Chandler's one time buying some strings or something, and a guy... As I was in there, a guy came in and he bought something and walked out. And the guy said, "Do you know who that was?" I said, "No." He said, "Hugh Burn." I said, "Really? What, the Baker Street?" "Yeah, that's him." I went, "Oh, would you look at that?"
Well, Tim, you were this close.
No, I was that close. This close.
It's like whenever someone leaves, that's what that guy does. He tells the previous person and the next person in the store who the other person was. It's like a stick or something.
It's a thing. Maybe it was a thing. But there you go.
I'm just kidding. It's doubtful it was a thing, but it's kind of random that you just happen to be in the same store with him.
Yeah, I was also in there one time when Neil Murray, who is the bass player, he played bass in Brian May's band for a while. He's also played bass in Whitesnake and a bunch of other stuff. He was in there, and I'm 80% convinced this is correct. I was in there one time years ago. I've been playing guitar for a number of years, but I was in there just wandering around, and there was a very sort of 5'2" American guy at the back of the shop, and someone was showing him the store. It wasn't just like somebody just had shopping and said, "Oh, in this rack we have the thing, and then in this rack we have these, and these have just come in," and this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I think it was Eddie Van Halen.
Tim's 100% convinced that was him.
I'm thinking because the guy Eddie Van Halen wasn't actually that tall, and it was the era, like 90s era. Eddie Van Halen was wearing like sort of John Lennon style glasses, and this guy had the same, and it was an American guy, and he was being shown around the shop. I'm almost convinced it was Eddie Van Halen. Well,
we'll never know. Tim, just tell everybody it was and go with the story.
There you are.
Nobody will know the difference. Just be like, "I was in the shop with him," and nobody will know. The guy who was actually in the shop that day listens to the podcast and sends you a message going, No, that was me. That's me. I just happen to look exactly like it and wear the same glasses. All right, what's the next song?
Okay, the next one is Blondie's Atomic. Now,
Because it's about ball?
Yeah, Blondie's Atomic was banned during the first Gulf War.
Oh.
So they banned Blondie's Atomic, but they also banned Maria Mulder's Midnight at the Oasis, I'll Fly For You by Spandau Ballet, and Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears in the same sweeping ban.
For all just because of war relations, or?
Yeah, and also, I mean, another thing that happened around this time, you know, there's like a dancey pop act called Massive Attack.
Yeah.
They changed their name to Massive.
Okay, then. I mean, I've still always heard them called Massive Attack, but that's just so weird. Because, like, okay, so some of the other songs you said that were banned, did you say Tears for Fears?
Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
I mean, I guess I see how that would kind of relate. And what was the other songs?
It was Midnight at the Oasis and I'll Fly For You by
What did
Spandau
the Oasis do? Well, how was it related to war?
I don't know. Maybe because it was in the Persian Gulf, Oasis. I don't know.
I mean, an oasis is just a place where you find water. What's the other one? I don't understand the logic and what's happening here.
No, and also another song which was around this time during the Gulf War. You know, "Gay Bar" by Electric Six.
Yeah.
There's a bit in it where it says, "Let's start a war, let's start a nuclear war." And in the video, it goes, "Let's start a clack. Let's start a clack, 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 clack." There's like a clack over it instead of saying war, nuclear war.
Okay, because that's better. But let's talk about the fact Blondie's Atomic. If that like sounds like that was banned by somebody who never actually listened to the song, because the song is not about a bomb.
No.
Not even a little bit.
No, but I think it was just the title. I don't know. It was just.
It's like somebody just went through and started. Not that one.
Not that one. Not that one. No.
But they're just marking it out as they go through. Oh, that says Atomic. I don't care what it's about. Not that one. Everybody wants to rule the world. No, you don't. Like I just imagine some old white stuffy British dude just marking out lines in a book. I'm not going to listen to that white lady with blonde hair. Nope.
No, cross through that. There you go.
You're on your own. It's just so silly. And I mean, I guess there might have been more reasoning behind it than we realized, but it does kind of seem weird, right?
Yeah, it seems odd and arbitrary, but I suppose in a time like that, someone has to make the call.
Yeah, well, and didn't that album have like an atomic bomb on the back of it or something? The cover.
Yeah, I think so.
That might have been part of it too.
Because obviously you can see the cover on FM radio.
That's true. Very true. Good point. Good point. Okay. Thanks for the maybe they were worried that if kids heard it, then they would run out to the stores and buy it.
Oh, they'd immediately run out to Our Price Records and buy it, and they'd see the cover and be triggered or something. I don't know.
See? Got it. Now I understand. Weird. It's all very weird. I mean, I thought the whole Billy Joel crushing his piano in the last episode was weird and the whole build up to it, but this one's kind of weird too.
There you go. Well, anyhow, so the next one I have, this is a song called French Kiss by Little Louie. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this. This is like a dance track, and it was from, I think, probably late 80s. I remember when it came out because it was this was one of these songs that the BBC would not play, but independent radio like Capital Radio in London would play. And it was weird. Okay. And it got to number 2 in the charts. And it was like, out of number 2, we have Little Louie and French Kiss. And we're not allowed to play that song.
Was it because it's about French kissing?
Well, no, because it's kind of a dance track. But the reason that they banned it, they said it was a hit in nightclubs around the world, but it had a tempo change in it, and it had some sexual moaning. But I think it was maybe the tempo change that was too much for them.
That's weird. That's very weird. I mean, if you're going to ban songs for a tempo change, you got to ban a lot of songs, Tim. Like, to be fair, right? Like, there's plenty of songs that have tempo changes that have been key changes, and I don't understand.
Yeah, I think it's again, it's some stuffy old men sitting in a room making arbitrary decisions.
I mean, yeah. And you know what? Whose job is it to just go click? Not this one. Okay, that one's fine. No. Yeah, that one can pass. Like, that job would be a very interesting job if that was your whole position. Nah, don't like that one. Sorry, veto it.
Well, the good thing is in this country is if you work in radio, you don't have to worry about doing that because the whole playlist only has 20 songs.
That's true. Maybe that's why we don't have this problem in America. They just play the same songs over and over again and don't think twice about it.
Yeah, I mean, we have lots of independent radio stations, FM radio stations. But say you like country, you go to 94.9 Star Country, which is not a station I would ever listen to. If that's your thing, you'd listen to that. And it's like, look at that. That's 15 country songs on a loop.
And like, did you know at 12 p.m. every day they play the national anthem?
Do they? Really?
Yeah.
Well, midnight or midday?
Midday, like 12 p.m., not 12 a.m.
I didn't know that.
One time, okay, story time. So I was sitting at work whenever I used to work in a different location. Mm-hmm. So when I was out as the office assistant, I used to be out in the open in the main area, and the vent was right above my head. Well, there was a vent down the hall across where our financial services are, and somebody was listening to Star Country, whatever that channel is, and at 12 p.m., the national anthem. And for some reason, through that vent, everything that happened down there, I could hear clear as day right where I was sitting. Like, it's very loud. Mm-hmm. And it like was dead silent. Everybody's just working. Nobody's talking. We're all on deadlines, whatever. And nowhere's the national anthem comes through the vent blaring at me. And I was like, what the? And I just like kind of like was like, what is happening? Because I'm American. It's fine, but I'm not overly patriotic or anything like that, and I'm not going out of my way to listen to the national anthem. And so I was like, what in the world? And so then I realized it's because they were listening to that station. And so later I was talking to somebody about, I think a fellow coworker or somebody, and yeah, at 12 p.m. every day they play the national anthem.
I mean, it fits the narrative of a country music radio station, but I didn't know that.
Why that's necessary, I'll never know.
I mean, I know that like 96.3 ROV Get the Lead Out. I think it's at 7 p.m. and they play 3 Led Zeppelin songs. And at 10 o'clock, they have mandatory Metallica where they play 3 Metallica songs. I think that still happens.
And let me guess, I could guess all 3 songs every day.
Oh, of course.
What 3 Led Zeppelin songs are they really going to play?
Stairway to Heaven, Rock and Roll, Black Dogs. I mean, take your pick of the 3 songs off of Led Zeppelin 4, and then you're probably about there.
Wait, I mean, you at least get 2 out of 3. Maybe they change it up for the 3rd one every once in a blue moon.
Maybe they do. I don't know.
That's funny. Okay.
All
anyway.
Right. So the next one I have is Radiohead's Creep. Now, it's probably understandable. It was released in 1992 and it was rarely given any airplay for 2 reasons. One reason, because it has a bad, naughty word in it, but the main reason is it was considered too depressing.
Okay, I mean, it is very depressing. And if you guys follow the podcast, you know me and Tim actually put out a version of that song together, so we're pretty familiar with all the words. Okay, I'm trying to think of what bad word. I mean, it says
it's instead of so very special, it's something else special.
Oh, yeah. I was singing it in my head going, where's the bad word? But I guess we sang the PG, or I said the PG version.
Yeah.
You're right. He does say that. Okay. I was sitting there playing it in my head going, where does he say that?
Well, so they re-recorded an alternative version the next year in 1993. And then because they did that, it reached number 7 in the UK charts.
I mean, it's an amazing song. It's a beautiful piece of work. And then when the lead singer of Radiohead sings, I don't know what his name is. I used to, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. His voice is so, it's not like I'm just going to say, it's not like he's some amazing, like Aretha Franklin type singer, but his voice sounds so good to paint the picture of what that song is. It's a great piece, like as a music. So I'm glad they were able to re-release it. But I also understand it is kind of like a downer.
Yeah, it's the chap's name you're looking for is Tom York.
That's what it was. I couldn't think of it because it's actually, wasn't it something about like his girlfriend or somebody died of cancer or something?
I think
not too soon after that or something like that.
I think so. I think it was some sad tale like that. I have a very vivid memory of playing that in the Rising Sun in Slough, which is a venue which you're probably not familiar with. But if you've seen the UK version of The Office, and I think you've probably seen that.
Yeah,
in the opening
I've seen episodes and pieces and stuff.
And you know in the opening titles there's a roundabout?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is filmed from Slough bus station, which I don't think is there anymore. If you take a left at that roundabout, the Rising Sun pub used to, I think it's now a block of flats or something, but it was on the right-hand side. It's right there. So we used to play Creep in Rough Justice, and my dear friend Paul Summerton is a very funny guy, and he likes antics, and he likes funny things, and he likes embracing the nonsensical world of rock and roll, as well as being an amazing singer. And we played Creep in there, and he dropped his trousers. He's standing there just like in his shirt and his underpants with his trousers around his ankles singing Creep, because obviously he's a creep.
I'm glad. What year was this, Tim? If you did that nowadays, he might have been arrested.
It was early to... I mean, we got Rough Justice going again 2004. So if I had to guess, 2006, 2007, something about that sort of time.
It was right before the mob came out. The mob mentality came out.
It was incredibly hilarious, and there were some emails the next day about how Tom York himself was going to be doing the same thing next time Radiohead toured.
Wow, Tim, you had some times, man.
I have seen a million faces and rock them all, I believe is the expression that you're looking for.
It's a hard way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Exactly.
Or I guess it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Lord, that's gonna become like the motto of this whole, because the whole last episode we said that like 5 times. We're like, yeah, I guess it is a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Well, you still haven't got your roadie though, huh? No roadie to push your heavy equipment around.
No, that's still yet to happen. I live in hope, you know.
That's all Tim asks. He doesn't care about any of the other things that come with being a rock star. If someone could just push his stuff on stage for him.
Yeah, and set it up and then tear it down afterwards. If you could do that, that'd be fantastic.
That's really, I mean, he will offer you a beverage.
Yeah.
And a handshake.
There you go. Anything like that would be fine.
Applicants can email, blah, blah, blah. Okay, anyway, what's the next song that was banned?
Okay, the next song that was banned was My Generation by The Who. And the reason it was banned is it has a line in it or several lines in it where Roger Daltrey is stuttering. Mm-hmm. And it was banned because it would be possibly offensive to stutterers.
To hear stuttering?
Yeah.
Was it like they thought he was making fun of people who stutter? Yeah,
that was the gist of why it was banned.
I'm playing the song through my head, and I don't hear, like, it doesn't make me think of someone making fun of someone who stutters.
Yeah, but like he says, why don't you all fade away, etc.
I just thought that was more of, I didn't think of it less of a stutter and more of just like an artistic choice. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know that I even thought of that as a stutter.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it is, but...
But apparently the single was released, and this was at the time in the 60s when, you know, singles sold, you know, hundreds of thousands of copies. And apparently by the time it had sold 300,000 copies and every other radio station was playing it, apparently the BBC relaxed its ban.
Because it's like, you know, he says... look awful cold, and he like does that with the C at one point.
Yeah.
And then there's like sensation or sensitive or something. Yeah, sensation, generation. I never thought of that as like a stutter, like somebody who stutters. I just saw that as a musical choice for the sound he was going for.
Sure. I mean, but that was their reasoning for banning it.
I mean, when you hear that, do you instantly think stutter?
To be honest, before I researched this episode, I hadn't really given it a lot of thought.
I don't think I have either. Do you just said it? I know. It's always, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I guess in theory, maybe someone could be insulted. Now, there is a thing where I don't know if you know about this, but people with Tourette's who have tics, like different tics, people with Tourette's. Did you know that if they so there's like a whole thing on TikTok right now that's an issue is if they start seeing other people's tics, they can pick up on their tics. So like if somebody has a tic where let's say they yell out a certain word whenever something happens, right? I don't know all the basics of it. And if they see it, their brain can start mimicking that tic and they could get more tics from hearing other tics. I don't think that necessarily works with stuttering, but there is something there with Tourette's. I know that.
Well, I mean, I don't want to make light of their condition, but it is called TikTok.
Ha, 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 ha. So funny, Tim. Did you come up with that one all on your own, bud?
No, I had to Goog that one.
You gave it a Goog. By the way, the podcast that's from is called True Crime Obsessed, and if you've never heard them, they're amazing. We're not sponsored by them, but anyway, but that's where I got give them a Goog. That's why I said TCO.
There you go. Marvelous.
Give them a Goog.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next one. So the next one that was banned was David Bowie's Space Oddity. And the reason that was banned, at the time, the Apollo 11 mission was happening. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. They were going to the moon. And
good Lord.
They didn't want to allow the song to be played until they came back from the moon safely.
Oh my good Lord. So, you know what? We should have like a game. Like if we had pre-planned this where you just set up, what do you think from this song made it be banned? And every time what my brain thinks would be wrong. I mean, okay, I get it. I guess I get it. But at the same time, was it just maybe they just didn't want to put that out there in the atmosphere? That's very like think it, want it, wish it, do it type thing.
I don't know.
If I think it long enough, it'll come true.
I don't know. It was just that they wanted to make sure that our crew were home safely before you could listen to David Bowie.
I mean, Major Tom. I mean, ground control to Major Tom. Major Tom was, he was their support. And I understand. What if there was like somebody that was working and their name was Tom and maybe they just didn't want him to be associated with the song?
It could be.
So that's actually what it is. Because all I can think about is like, the opening and he's talking and yeah, I don't know. But it would really suck if you worked in like what are the people at the control tower? Yeah. Or like whatever.
Mission control. Mission
control. That's what I'm looking for. Because control tower is more of like a plane. And your name is Tom. And they'd be like, Major Tom. People would mess with you the entire time.
A lot of the folks who work there are military or ex-military. So it's highly possible that there was a Major Tom that actually worked at NASA.
It's possible. I mean. Well, anyway, it's just weird to me, the choices they're making. Like, it's not like the overt songs that I would think, and then when you say it, I'm like, oh, it's probably because, and you're like, no.
That's not the reason.
I'm like, okay, well.
All right, well, let's see if you can decide why this one was banned. So,
okay,
this is Bobby Boris Pickett and the Monster Mash. Now, why was that banned?
Monsters are scary?
Almost. It was banned because it was too morbid.
The Monster Mash?
Yes, because with lyrics like it was a graveyard smash, the BBC failed to find its funny side and banned the song for being too morbid. Now, it made number one in the US Billboard charts. In 1962, and it was big there, but it didn't actually chart in the UK until 1973 when it was re-released 10 plus years after the fact.
Okay, let's have a conversation about this. Yes, they're monsters, but the whole song's literally just about a party. He's just naming off monsters who are at a party. A graveyard smash just means it was fun.
Sure.
How do you... Okay. The person who was picking this, is got to be the most boring human being in the history of the world to think that the Monster Mash, oh good Lord, was the One-Eyed Flying Purple People Eater band over there.
I don't have that on my list, but I seem to remember that was banned as well. I think that was that too.
Well, that was a movie too. It's based off of a movie. Like I think there was a Purple People Eater movie. Mm-hmm. And there was the song. And I mean, at least that one, he was eating the people, so I could see how it's kind of scary. But the Monster Mash, I mean, oh God, that's just like, that person has to be fun at parties. God. Nope, we got to turn that one off. Too scary. Halloween, we can't listen to the Monster. That's like what we play in America at our kid parties. Oh, Lord. I mean, gosh, one time whenever it was Halloween, so I used to work as HR at Kroger, which we've talked about as a grocery store for those of you guys. It doesn't really matter. It's your most basic grocery store you could think of. Mm-hmm. So I used to work as an HR manager at one of them. And, I had to listen to the music over the loudspeaker all the time, which I've talked about. And I remember one time we were having a team meeting in the back. They would call these huddles. Mm-hmm. And if any of the management was available, they always wanted us to go to make a face. Your management's there too.
Sure.
So we went in the back and we're just sitting around talking. And it's just like your daily huddle, whatever that word is.
Huddle.
That, like I said, Tim's the official pronunciator of the podcast. But that word. So, and we're just sitting there. And I remember Mr. Cox was going over sales stuff. And then out of nowhere, it's because it's close to Halloween time, I hear over the loudspeaker, one eye. I was like, oh, wow. And so it's just weird because the entire time we're trying to have this meeting, the Flying Purple People Eater song was playing in the background. Anyway, so that's what I think of when I think of that song. I don't remember the movie. I remember seeing it, and he was purple, obviously, but I don't remember what the purpose or what happened to him.
Well, he was eating a lot of people, probably.
I would think so, Tim. But did he live? Did he die? Was it a horror movie? I don't know.
I honestly have no idea. I'd like to think he was driving in a Trans Am with Sally Field, but I might be getting confused.
So, to be fair, in America, well, in 2021 in general, you could tell me there was a Purple People Eater out there eating people, and I'd be like, meh. Sounds about right. And get in my car and just drive anyway. I mean, everything else that could go wrong has went wrong. So let's add Purple People Eaters into the mix.
Well, like you said about NASA confirmed, I think last year, that they said that they had found UFOs in the sky. The military aircraft had seen UFOs that had been doing wacky stuff. And people were like, meh.
Sounds about right. I know. And then we had killer flying hornets and everybody's like, okay, fine, whatever. I mean, I one time walked into work and told a coworker, well, if they told me that the trees were coming to life and like throwing stuff at us, I'd be like, well, still got to get to work and just get in my car and go into autopilot mode. Like, I don't know. What am I supposed to do at this point?
It's a whole new world out there now, You
just got to take it as it comes.
Exactly. Just take it one day at a time and just do the best you can. That's what
we're going to wake up tomorrow and we're going to hear like there actually are trees breaking down doors. And Tim's going to be like, Joy, you predicted it.
Oh, goodness me.
All right. Oh, gosh. I can't believe that came from. I still can't believe that they thought the Monster Mash was scary. All right, what's next?
Okay, so the next song, this one is very unsurprising that it was banned. I mean, you think of like the Monster Mash and stuff, but you think, why did they ban this one? And this is the Dead Kennedys, Too Drunk to that word.
It is the reason why I think it was banned.
Yes, it was. They were thinking of doing a radio edit, but they decided not to. The Californian punk band released it in 1981. The BBC couldn't wait to clamp down on it. But the funny thing was it was sold in all record shops in the UK, but the record label supplied them with a little sticky label to put over the offending word on the cover.
That offending word, though, like let's say if there was a lyric sheet in there, they would have to have a little sticky at the end of every sentence in the song. Because I mean, let's just say he rhymed a lot, and I guess it's kind of not a rhyme. There's a lot of K's in that song,
sure.
And like Yeah, like if there was like a lyric sheet, every other word would have to be bleeped out.
Yeah, but I suppose as a single, they wouldn't necessarily have a lyric sheet. I think lyric sheets, certainly at that time, were more of an album thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I'm just thinking out, you know what I mean? Like,
or somebody, or they'd have to provide you with a pot of Tipex, or as they say in the United States, whiteout, and then you could go through and maybe make the edits yourself if you was feeling suitably offended.
Well, and here's the thing, though. First of all, the band's name is the Dead Kennedy, so I mean,
exactly.
Let's just start right there. We can't really hide, and that's literally every other word of the song. I wish there was a Kids Bop version of it.
No, maybe there is.
I'll give that a Goog after that.
Joy, give it a Goog.
I'll give it a Goog. I mean, okay, at least that one's obvious. And I'm sure, I mean, that one could have been banned at some point on different things in America, to be honest. And I don't know that I've ever heard that song over a loudspeaker or on the radio or anything of that nature.
No, it's maybe on Sirius satellite radio, because I mean I think some of the stations on there are uncensored,
like the Lithium and the Octane, all those that play some of the rock music, probably.
Sure, and likewise if you have a Spotify playlist.
Hey, it was him this time, not me.
Yeah, you can set it so you don't care about explicit material. So I'm sure if you had punk from the whatever, it would show up on there.
I mean, I'm not a huge Dead Kennedys fan by any stretch, so for me it's hit or miss. But if you have a band and that's their name, and that's the name of the song, you get what you get.
Exactly.
That's all I can say.
Exactly. Well, there we go. Anyhow, the next song I have, this is one that you probably know was banned, or maybe you would know that why it would be banned, and that's the Beatles' "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds."
No, I've never heard of it. What's that band?
They're a beat combo, Northern England.
He said it wasn't about drugs.
Yeah, remember? I mean, the standard line from John Lennon is that Julian Lennon painted a painting and he said, "Oh, that's little Lucy in the sky with some diamonds." But it LSD. And then the whole song is like an acid trip. So I'm not completely convinced with that.
It's kind of like at least when Britney Spears did "If You Seek Amy," she was honest about what it was supposed to sound like.
Exactly.
If you seek Amy. Wonder what she was going for.
I have no idea.
Not a clue. Well, I mean, and you know what's funny now? Back in the day, whenever I used to play, whatever, like the original, when I maybe like Xbox, one of the original Xbox, and like it's when they first had like the online gamer tags, or you could put up your own gamer tag. I used to play Black Ops a lot, and I know that's very unexpected of me, but it's fine. I'm a weird person sometimes. But with that being said, one of my gamer tags was like "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds." I thought I was so cool, and I probably had no clue what that even meant. And now I'm sitting there going, "Oh God." They probably were like, "Oh, okay, well, that's a choice."
The BBC also banned "A Day in the Life," also from Sgt. Pepper, because there's a line in that song that says, "I'd love to turn you on," and obviously in 1967 UK broadcasting, that was far too racy.
Well, we're just getting crazy up here. But here's the thing: she was 16. You know what I mean? Was it banned?
No. But we've covered that before. We've covered UK consent laws in the UK and things being cool or not cool and all that kind of stuff.
That's too racy, but that's okay.
Exactly.
White stuffy old man. All right.
Okay, so the next one that I have for you is from a band called The Shaman. Are you familiar with a band called The Shaman?
Not particularly.
They were a 90s electronic pop group, and they had a song called Ebenezer Good.
Doesn't ring a bell.
And really, it's just an excuse to make the chorus say "E's are good," as in ecstasy. So he says, "E's are good, E's are good, Ebenezer good." So
I mean, it's a creative way of putting it in there.
Yeah. So it was released at the height of the rave age, I suppose.
Yeah.
And a lot of the BBC and other people were trying to crack down on this kind of rave drug culture type
I know
thing.
Europe had a big No offense, I've just heard. Not to try to insult Europe, but you guys had a big kind of electric dance kind of underground scene, from what I understand.
Exactly. So I don't think the cool kids are calling it ecstasy anymore. Isn't it called Molly now?
I think there's a difference. MDMA is like Molly. I don't know drugs. Don't come for me, internet. Mark that off your card because I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I mean, but they're all party drugs that make people very sensual.
Exactly. So our friends at the Shaman were very keen to promote this drug culture with their Ebenezer Good song that just says he's a good, Ebenezer Good.
Well, nobody will ever think me and Tim were ever on drugs because we have no clue. What was that one episode where we tried to decide how much heroin was too much heroin? And Tim's like, I think any heroin is too much heroin. I'm like, you're probably right. You're probably right.
Let me tell you, Joy, I'm a complete square. I mean, I like a pint of Guinness once a year. And I think you said recently that you're trying to cut back or stop drinking or something.
Yeah, I've went on the straight and narrow now, so it is what it is. But yeah, it was just funny because we were discussing if for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, we were discussing the conspiracy episode. Somebody had died of a heroin overdose. I don't remember which one it was, and maybe it was Jim Morrison. Maybe that's what we were talking about. I don't know, but I was like, well, they were saying something about. Oh, it was probably Kurt Cobain. They're saying something about like, this was a normal amount for him, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, we were trying to figure out what's a normal amount of heroin. And Tim just sticks up his head and goes, I feel like no heroin is the normal amount of heroin or the correct amount. I was like, yeah, that's probably true.
Oh dear. Anyhow, I have a couple more of these songs before we wrap this up. I mean, this is a music podcast where we go off on tangents, but if you're looking for drug advice, this is not the place to come.
We don't know anything.
No, we if you do what you want to do, that's not for. We don't judge you, but don't come here for advice.
All right, go ahead, Tim.
Okay, so this one is an interesting one that got banned. Ricky Valence's "Tell Laura I Love Her."
What did Laura do to them?
Well, the song it tells the story of a boy who falls victim to a car crash during a race to try and win enough money to buy a wedding ring for his young bride. And the track, is pretty dramatic, but the BBC decided to ban it because they're worried about the impact of sharing a song that was so emotional with the public.
What?
Yeah.
You would have to ban like 1,000 songs if that's your reasoning. You know what I mean, though? Like, how many? I can think of 1,000. My Heart Will Go On. Like, this is the first thing that comes to mind. There's so many songs that are overly emotional.
Yeah, I think it was because it dealt with a teenage tragedy. And it was sung from the viewpoint of a deceased person, grieving their loss. And I think there was too much of an emotional content for the young ears of that time to hear.
Okay, then. I mean, I guess I would be really bad at this. I'd be like, that's fine. Who cares? They'll hear it in public school. That's fine. They hear worse on the playground. Good luck. I don't know. I don't think I'd be good at making this decision because I'm just like, this is ridiculous. What is we living in a footloose town? They're going to ban all loud music now.
Yeah, maybe we should do like a bonus episode where I'll give you a list of songs and you can come up with ridiculous ideas why you could ban them.
Oh, he didn't tie his shoes on time in this one. Go.
There you go.
Said the color red too many times. We're out.
Exactly.
It kind of feels like that. Like, but anyway. But it's just weird that the specific songs they're choosing too. You know what I mean? Like that specific song. It wasn't even that popular of a song.
I know. It's weird.
Maybe that's why it wasn't popular, because it wasn't played on the radio. Anyway, what's that? I've got a theory. Oh, wait, I have a theory. The guy who is the one that's marking all these songs off, he works with record companies, is getting money based off the ones he gives a go. And then the ones he puts in the bucket are ones they don't want him to send on through.
Well, you say that, but you see, when it used to be a thing that, like, if you got your song banned by the BBC, that's like instant number one, because if it's so...
so it's the opposite.
Yeah. Because, we spoke on I haven't got it on today because we've spoken about it previously, but like Frankie Goes to Hollywood, the relax, the reason that that got banned and everything, but once it was banned, it was like an instant hit and everyone wanted to buy it because, if it's so bad, well, let's go out and buy it.
Well, it's kind of like when you have a kid that's over, their parents never let them do anything. So then when they get out of the house, they go rebel and go crazy. We want what we can't have type thing.
Exactly.
Interesting. So he's working with the record companies, whoever this person is. And I know it's a guy based off of what we're describing, but it's an old white stuffy British dude. He is in the pockets of the record companies. Calling it.
There we go. And he's now out of work because streaming music has killed all this stuff.
And if I go missing next week, it's because I cracked the code. This is the last episode. The FBI didn't get us in that one episode. This one, they're definitely coming for me. All right, give us like 2 or 3 more songs.
Okay, Tim. I've got 2 more for you. So this one here, I've got Chuck Berry, and it's not the one you think it's going to be. It's Maybelline.
Because of the makeup company?
No, it says...
I don't know. I thought maybe they thought it was about makeup.
The reason it got banned, I mean, the song itself is reasonably innocent, but some people complain that Maybelline explored the concept of infidelity.
That seems like a grasping at straws. And how many songs are about infidelity? There's tons of music. I mean, Garth Brooks, The Thunder Rolls. What do you think he was thinking about in that song? He wasn't singing about thunder. Well, I mean, he was, but he wasn't.
A figurative thunder, not an actual thunder.
I mean, there's plenty of songs about infidelity. Why that one specifically when it doesn't even say it? You know what I mean? It's not direct.
Sure.
And if you wanted to make anything, if you could hear whatever you want from a song if you think hard enough about it. The choices are weird, Tim. The choices are weird.
I didn't pick these songs to be banned. I did my research.
You were the guy.
And I'm accurately reporting the findings to our loyal listeners.
I mean, I guess because he's saying, why can't you be true? That's where they're getting the infidelity thing. It seems like a stretch. It seems like a stretch.
It is actually a huge stretch, but...
Okay. I'm not crazy.
But there you go. Anyhow, I'm going to leave you on this one.
Okay.
Now, in the late 80s in the UK, we had a movement that was called Acid House. Now, I know that you personally hail from after the late 80s. I know you weren't around to enjoy that like I was. But are you aware of Acid House and the Acid House movement?
Kind of. Like, I know what it is.
Yeah, so... There was a lot of sort of dance culture type songs were into this kind of acid house and acid the drug and all that kind of stuff. So there was an act called D-Mob, and they came out with a song called We Call It Acid, A-C-I-E-E-D. And
wonder what they were singing about.
Yeah, and they supposedly were concerned, a few reasons. They were concerned that it was supporting the free trafficking of drugs to the UK. And originally it was played. I remember it being played on the radio. They call it Acid. Mm-hmm. And then someone woke up and said, no, we can't have this anymore. And I seem to remember it wasn't just the BBC. I think it was independent radio stations actually banned it, because they were worried about the airwaves becoming too drug-focused with the song We Call It Acid.
I mean, it's pretty obvious what they're singing about. I feel like the song is probably talking about the effects of acid throughout it, probably, or something.
Yeah,
or what acid makes you feel like. Yeah,
and I think there's a pop video with it, with like flashing colours and stuff like that. But I said it's interesting that they
not for an epileptic.
No, absolutely not. But it's interesting that for a while it was played and it got a following, because I remember it being played, and then all of a sudden, in like pacham. And it went. And I remember the DJ saying, oh, is that it for Acid House? Because I think it was, people were expecting this to be a new movement of that kind of music and that genre of music. But I'm sure in clubs and circles of people that enjoyed that kind of stuff, maybe it was the beginning of a movement. But certainly in the mainstream, you had D-Mob's We Call It Acid, and then it was just like...
It just disappeared.
And then you had, Spice Girls and Backstreet Boys and stuff instead.
I mean... To be fair, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, Britney Spears, that's not what to say. The Spice Girls, their most famous song says, if you want to get with me, you got to get with my friends.
Well, that's kind of a wholesome message.
Take it how you want it, Tim.
Yeah. Well, it's wholesome. I've always read that. It's like, if you want to get with me, you got to get with my friends. Which means if you want to be with me, Spice Girl, you have to embrace my circle of friends who are with me for life. You're just new. That's how I always read that.
And Baby One More Time was Hit Me With Your Love One More Time too, Tim.
Yeah.
Do you know that there's an actual an actual interview with Britney Spears, and they ask her, what does Hit Me Baby One More Time mean? And that's what she said. She goes, for me, it's like hitting me with your love over and over again. And that made it work. I'm like, you're the wrong way to say it.
I don't think she wrote that song anyway.
Oh, no. She just said that's how she interpreted it. Yeah. And I'm like, you interpreted it as, here's the song, we're going to put it on, and you dance in the background and be Britney Spears, right?
Yeah.
But she said she literally looked right at, I'm going to find the clip and put it on the page. She looked right at the guy doing her interview and was like, no, I want him to hit me with my love. I was like, oh, God.
It's like,
please, someone get the poor 15-year-old off the stage.
It's like sort it out, Brittany. Don't do that.
It's a bad. Well, she was like 15 years old, and I'm sure in her 15-year-old brain it made sense, but to everyone else it makes it sound worse.
Exactly.
Anyway, and with that bit of information, I'll leave it there.
There we go, and we will say goodbye for this week. See you later, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.